Nietzsche isn't someone you read to feel comforted, okay? You read Nietzsche when you're tired of lying to yourself. He didn't write to make life feel easy. He wrote it to make it truer. That's why people are either misunderstanding or fear him or reduce him into a cause on the internet, okay? Because actually understanding Nietzsche requires you to take responsibility for your own life. When Nietzsche said that God is dead, he wasn't mocking religion. He was diagnosing a crisis. He meant that the old source of meaning, religion, tradition, and Western morality are lost power. People no longer truly believe, but they still behave as if those structures existed. And Nietzsche asked it to refine itself, okay? The old values are gone. Who is going to replace them? Because here's the danger. When people lose meaning and don't create new values, they don't become free. They become obedient to substitutes, ideologies, crowds, approval, consumption. Nietzsche sold this convinced look. Nietzsche had no patience for her mentality. It's like they choose safety over truth, agreement over excellence, comfort over growth. The heart says that don't stand out, don't think too much, don't question the rules. And Nietzsche responded with simple, okay, anything that makes you lose your individuality, that holds you to life, that doesn't mean arrogance, it means refusing your strength to be digestible. And this part is close to home for me, because when you stop performing, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to be like, people get uncomfortable. And not because you're wrong, but because you're not participating in the collective illusion anymore. Nietzsche didn't believe in becoming good, okay? He believed in becoming stronger, clearer, and more honest. His concept of overcoming wasn't about being others, okay? It was about outgrowing your former self. He believed suffering wasn't something to avoid, it was something to use. Not glorified, not romanticized, but integrated, okay? Every challenge as, will this hire me or will this refine me? And the answer depends solely on whether you take responsibility or choose resentment for that. Nietzsche despised resentment, okay? He saw it as emotional people who feel powerless, refuse to admit it. Instead of changing their life, they shade the moral rules. They call strength evil. They call discipline obsession. They call boundaries narcissism. Sounds familiar? Yeah, Nietzsche warned that resentment disguised itself as morality, pretends to be righteous while quietly feeding on envy, The antidote. Create your own values instead of reacting to others. The Uberman was not about domination, it was about self-authorship. Someone who doesn't inherit values wrongly, someone who doesn't evoke on-board meaning, someone who can stand alone without collapsing. The Uberman doesn't ask, what should I be? They ask, what can I become if I stop lying? That's not ego, that's responsibility, okay? This wasn't, antisocial, it was anti-diluted. That constant social noise becomes for thought, the creativity, clarity, and self-knowledge requires wisdom. And solitude wasn't loneliness to him, it was incubation for him. This is where his advice becomes so uncomfortable for the modern world, okay? If you never spend time alone, you will never meet yourself. Like, I'm afraid in life you're afraid. This is the most mature. I'm afraid, loving your fate, not tolerating it, not enduring it, but fully accepting it, every part of yourself. Not because everything is good, but because everything shaped you. Regret keeps you chained to the past. Acceptance sends the past into fear. Nietzsche believed the strongest people don't waste their suffering away. They transform it into depth, okay? We will tell you no, to stop blaming yourself, stop praising, stop outsourcing meaning, stop seeking validation from people who haven't questioned themselves. He will tell you that life owes you nothing, and that's exactly why it's yours. The truth is that Nietzsche isn't for everyone, and that's the point. He's for the people who are done with comforting lies, for people who are out of place in shallow system, for people who know there's more to life than approval and obedience. In his words, unsettled you. Good. Growth rarely feels polite. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming honest. And honest means in a world full of performance isn't a radical act. The truth is, fighting monsters is adaptive, okay? It gives you purpose. It gives you identity. It gives you a reason for your pain. When someone hurts you, underestimates you, disrespects you, or trusted diminished you, anger feels justified. And for a while, it feels, even it feels empowering. It tells yourself that you're standing up for yourself. You tell yourself that you're strong enough. You tell yourself, I'll never be vulnerable again. When Nietzsche sold the trap, long before we need it, okay? When your identity becomes the one who fights, you stop asking who you become in the process, okay? You stop noticing how your tone sharpens, how your empathy shrinks, how your world slowly organizes itself around opposition. Everything becomes everything becomes personal, everything becomes a war. And war is a terrible place to build yourself. I'm not noticing this in people who were once gentle, curious often they got hurt, and instead of integrating that pain, they armor themselves with cynicism. They learn how to wound instead of how to heal. They learn how to dominate conversation instead of understanding them, and they call it power. This doesn't say that that's evolution, that's power. No, that's not power. It's like it's reaction. It's captivity, okay? And someone who can control your emotional, your behaviors, your values, they still have power over you, even if you think you are resisting them. That's why becoming bitter is such a quiet defeat. This is where the line becomes personal for me, because, you know, when you're being misunderstood for a long time, you and you being understood by a long time,